What up? 3 or 4 people who have found these videos. It's raining outside today, so I won't be playing any disc golf. I'm stuck inside. I figured I'd bring you guys in to the AM1 classroom. I want to talk today about a particularly difficult topic, ranking your local disc golf course. Whenever I go to look at a new place to play, I'll go out and I'll take a look at the websites like discgolfcoursereview.com, which is a mouthful to say, and also kind of hard to use sometimes. No one seems to agree on what should go into a review, and a lot of the reviewers fail to stick with the guidelines that are available to them. So I'll go out and look at the numbers for those courses, and none of the rankings make sense. Some people are giving it a 2, some people are giving a 5. What's going on there? So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to use my scale. We're going to be able to rank your local disc golf course, and we're going to do it using BS numbers. Here we go. BS numbers, also known as the Birdie scale. Okay, this is my course comparison tool, and it is a tool that ranks disc golf courses from 1 to 5. Okay, 5 being the absolute best, 1 being the lowest score you can earn. There will be some situations where you might want to give a course a half score. That's fine. It happens to me as I'm looking at courses. Sometimes courses don't meet the requirements to meet one level, but they have something exceptional going on. You want to recognize them for that. A 5 is almost impossible to achieve. We're talking about, the top-notch courses in the world when we get to 5s. That's just the way it is. If you're going to have the ultimate disc golf course ranking, then it's got to be for ultimate disc golf courses. All right, here's my agenda for today's class. All right, I want to keep this short. This is a mini episode. I want to talk about what the Birdie scale is, what the numbers mean, why there's such a thing as the fudge factor, and I can show you an example of how I apply the Birdie score. This is going to come up in future videos when I'm talking to you about some other disc golf courses. I also want to talk about what it isn't. As I have learned as a scientist and as a teacher, one of the things that's very important when you define a thing is to understand what it is not. Okay? Some things can't and should not be measured. Right? The Birdie score for a course only impacts the features that are available for the players that are going out there and playing it. There's some intangibles that I cannot quantify that go into what makes a course fun. Not what the Birdie score is about. All right, so let's get started with this. First up is what the BS number is. Here's just an overview of what the score looks like. Again, it goes from 1 all the way to 5. 1, you have courses that are technically golf. At 5, you have the holy land of disc golf courses, and then everything in between. Most courses are going to end up somewhere around a 3. It's a good number. 3 is a good score. All right, taking a look at the very first level of the Birdie score. A 1 Birdie course has some very simple requirements. There must be baskets, there must be pads, there must be space in between them. That's about it. Some examples of courses that would earn a 1 Birdie score, things like your backyard courses, the tiki golf courses, okay? Campground courses. I know up here in the Northeast, a lot of ski mountains and resorts will they'll set up temporary courses for disc golf on the mountains and things like that. It's something for people to do when they're up there in the summer. Those kinds of courses might qualify as 1 Birdie courses. To qualify as a 2 Birdie course, we ratchet up the requirements. First, you have to include everything that was available in the 1 Birdie score. You have to have all of those features. Not hard to do in this situation, but the scale keeps building that way, so it will get harder as we go higher in the numbers. But you need to have surfaced tee pads. Okay, I don't care whether it's rubber pad or if it's pavers or concrete. You must have some kind of a surface tee pad. It cannot be dirt or gravel. Permanent baskets. No, fold up things that are stuck in the corner of the woods. You must have parking for the players, and you must have a supportive community. So that's how you keep disc golf courses maintained, and that's how you keep events going, things that make the disc golf course fun. Believe it or not, things like surface tee pads will send an awful lot of pretty good golf courses down to the 1 Birdie score. Sorry, that's the way it is. If your group can't get a surface on your tee pads, then do you really have a supportive community? For a 3 birdie course, we ratchet up the requirements. First, you have to have everything from the 2 and the 1 birdie scores. We're going to add to that undamaged equipment. I know things happen, baskets have trees fall on them, pads get flooded. As long as the community takes care of those things in a relatively quick manner, it's all good. You need signage with basic information. In this case, I would say par and distance. Okay, you need to know the par for the hole, and you need to know the distance to the basket. Doesn't have to be fancy, just something that's available for the players. You also need facilities for bathroom breaks. Okay, this is one that causes a little bit of controversy. Many players will say, oh, you know, we just sneak off behind a tree and take care of business. Nobody cares. Well, that might be true for the guys, but do the ladies feel that way about it? Okay. And assuming no, imagine advertising your disc golf course and saying, you know, we're a 3-star course for men, but only a 2-star course for women. See if you continue to have ladies showing up at your events. And if you no longer have ladies showing up at your events, see how long you have guys showing up at your events. You should also have a disc return, pretty basic, but some way for players to get lost plastic back into their own bag. You need a full 18-hole layout. I don't care if you've got baskets that are made by Fabergé. They are digital baskets that record every time you throw an ace and post it for you on Facebook automatically. Okay, if you don't have 18 holes, you're going to get tired of that course relatively quickly. Okay, you need a full 18-hole layout. And you also need a variety of shots. I'm going to talk about this later, but it's very hard to define how a disc golf course can be fun. What makes what course fun? Variety of shots is important to that. Okay, it does speak to that. You cannot have a course that was designed by a right-hander and cannot be played for par by a left-hander. That's just not going to work. You have to accommodate different holes so that there's a variety players won't get bored with. 4 birdies. Okay, first we're going to change some of our requirements. 1, all of the above from the previous categories, plus most of the items that are on this list. Okay, I recognize that sometimes you'll have, you know, we've got 9 items here. You might have 8 of them. That's okay. Close enough. Okay. You might only have 7 of them, but in some other way your course is exceptional. Close enough. If you only have 6 of these things, sorry, you're a 3 birdie course. That's just the way it is. Get to work, get your community going, prove that you're a 4 birdie course. At the top, multiple tees or multiple baskets or both. Permanent facilities. Okay, what I mean by permanent facilities is not, you know, a tent that somebody, you know, sets up for tournaments, not porta potties, that kind of thing like that. You need to have permanent structures on the facility. That could be, you know, just bathrooms and maybe a space to get out of the rain or something along those lines. You need signage. Just like before we said basic par information and distance, this time you need to have a map of the hole for each tee pad. Remember, this is a course that's going to have multiple baskets or multiple tee pads. Okay, it's very important to know which way the fairway runs. All right, it's very important to know where there might be OB. So you need to have maps on those pads if you're going to call yourself a 4 birdie course. Especially when you've got multiple baskets, this can be true because sometimes it's hard to tell which basket is for which, you know, which shot. I've had trouble with that in several courses that I've traveled to and played for the first time. You need to have brooms and shovels if snow is an issue for you. Maybe not at every single pad. If you've got multiple pads at your course, they could have them set at, you know, 1 of the pads for each hole. As long as it's a quick walk to pick one up, you know, go shovel off the pad, that's fine. Generally, it should be free of trash. I'm not talking about Jake Morris. I'm talking about actual trash on the ground, like litter. That stuff needs to be picked up. A little bit here and there is no big deal. At Borderwind, we have a big problem with this because there's so many people coming in and using the park. It's a destination course. We get people coming from crazy other areas and they bring all kinds of stuff with them to spend the whole day there. And a lot of it accidentally, I'm going to say, gets left on the course. You need your community to step it up, get that stuff out of there as quickly as possible. You know, every couple of weeks, do a trash round, that sort of thing. If you've got barrels on the course, those barrels need to be emptied. Okay, I've played at another local course where I'll go out there and they have barrels at a couple of holes. That's great, but all too frequently I've seen those barrels overflowing and there's trash all around the tee pad as a result of it. People just keep piling it up near the barrel. Next hole signs. As I've seen on a couple of different courses, they have these neat little arrows that they hang underneath the basket, which directs you to, here's where the blue tee is, and here's where the white tee goes. Those are fantastic. I've seen other courses that put a brick down in the ground and just painted an arrow on it. Also a great idea. I love both of those things. Next hole signs are great, but you should also include, if there's a long walk between holes, some kind of a sign that tells you this way, next pad. You should have par above 60. And this is important for your community. If you don't have a layout that challenges the upper tier players at your course, those upper tier players are going to go somewhere else. Now, okay, no big deal. That's probably only a few people. But here's the thing. Upper tier players at a course attract lower tier players, okay? The people who are in your B and your C pools, when they come in for doubles, that sort of thing, for events, those people like to see the A poolers throwing big shots, making big putts, making, splash plays, so to speak. If you lose those A tier players, then B and C aren't going to have as much fun. You also need multiple lanes off of each tees. I mentioned a variety of shots before. If you're going to be a 4 birdie course, you need to have multiple lanes off of each tee, not just holes with different shots. You need to be able to get there for par as a flick player or as a backhand player, as a lefty or a righty, as someone who putts well, as someone who drives short, whatever it is. And you also need to hold regional tournaments. I'm not talking about pro level tournaments, I'm talking about something like the Ice Bowl Classic or something like that your course does. Some kind of an event that is unique to your course that gets people not only from your own community involved, but people from disc golf communities around you. So maybe something that everybody in the state drives to, or at least the local 5 or 10 disc golf courses that are in your area. Okay, here we are at the ultimate level for the birdie scale. Okay, a 5 birdie course, just like the 4 birdie course, this is going to be all of the above plus most of the items that are on this list. Here's where we get into some, frankly, expensive professional grade stuff. A pro shop, a snack bar, or a player's lounge. Okay, you need space for your players to hang out. Beginner friendly layout to attract those new players, and a pro level layout. Like I said before, par 60 or above. You're going to need to challenge these guys with some seriously high par numbers. I threw this as an example, but rental carts or other luxury amenities. To be honest, I only know of one course that I can think of that actually has like golf carts that you can rent. And I don't know of any other that does that. But you need to have something unique or something interesting about your course that makes it interesting and makes it a different experience, or certainly a luxury experience for your players if you're going to call yourself a 5 birdie course. Clinics, pro lessons, that kind of thing like that happening, some kind of educational opportunities for the people that are at the course, and then finally a pro level tournament. Okay, maybe not Simon Wazat and Paul Macbeth and Yuko Mann and all those guys like that, but you want to have a serious cash purse going out, okay, to players, something that's going to grab the attention of some big name players. All right, finally. This scale is not perfect, and there will be some situations where courses, are a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. So we have a fudge factor, okay? A lot of this comes up where something like a requirement says you must have all of the above versus most of the above. Not all requirements carry the same weight. For example, if the requirement is that you must have multiple layouts, that is a much stronger requirement than having, say, brooms and shovels at your pads, okay? So some things can be looked over, some things definitely not. When we get to the top levels, that's when we start splitting hairs. What exactly constitutes an educational experience for your players, for example? A lot of people would debate that. But we're talking about top level golf here. that's where you start really, go to the pros. The differences between the pros are very minor. This is going to be the same way with disc golf courses. Then we have the dreaded 1/2 birdie score. Okay, I understand that some courses don't qualify for the level above, but they offer much more than the level below. This is where a 3.5 I think can be justified, or like even a 2.5. All right. Why don't I just make a scale from 0 to 10? I could make a more granular scale, but then you'd lose the building approach to the way that this works. A 4 birdie course builds on what a 3 birdie course has to offer. The 3 birdie builds on the 2, and so forth. For example, if we're looking at 4 birdie courses, we're looking at scores of a 7 and an 8 on a 10-point scale. Well, which is it that makes it a 7? Is it the permanent bathrooms, or is it the multiple layouts? Okay, which one of those makes it a 7 versus an 8? So I'm sticking with a 5-point scale for now until I come up with something better. All right, I promised you an example of applying the score. We're going to take the birdie scale and we're going to apply it to 2 courses, Borderland and the 501. I've got the requirements because I believe that both of these qualify as 4 birdie scores. Multiple tees and baskets, permanent facilities, signage with fairway maps, brooms and shovels, generally free of trash, next hole signs, a par above 60, multiple lanes off the tees, and they both hold regional tournaments. Okay. Let's take a look at how the data works out. Okay. All right. Even though these are both 4 birdie courses, they're not the same. There are some significant differences in the way they've gone about achieving that 4 birdie score. For example, both courses have multiple tees and baskets, but Borderland has dual tees and baskets, whereas the 501 just has dual baskets. Okay. Advantage Borderland. Borderland only has vending machines and some open space available to the public in the ranger station. Whereas the 501 has, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a pro shop, it's a little red shed that they have out front, and they have, candy and other snacks for sale, water bottles, they have drinks, they have some disc golf supplies as well, like towels, pencils, minis, those kinds of things like that. They even have a small selection of discs. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a pro shop, so I'm calling it the amateur shop. The problem with this is way better than what Borderland offers, except that it's only available on the weekends. So some advantages, some disadvantages. How do you weigh those two? I'm not quite sure, but I am certain that both qualify as permanent facilities. At Borderland, the condition of the course is pretty good, but I'll be honest, our pads, some of them are starting to look worn, some of them are starting to get a little bit lumpy. Whereas the 501, everything is in mint condition. It's still a new course, and it's very well taken care of. So obviously here, advantage goes to the 501. Navigation signs at Borderland, they're tiny and there's not many of them. It's intentional because they want to keep it looking like a wooded, environment. Whereas the 501 has some of the best signage on the, the tees, not the tees, the baskets, and also the walkways. Here's where we start getting into trouble, and I'm going to talk about the fudge factor again. Borderland has bathrooms at the ranger station, full bathrooms with sinks and hand dryers and, the works basically. Whereas the 501 just has a porta potty. Now that porta potty is regularly emptied, it's kept in good shape, and it's clean. But if you get a tournament with 70 people showing up, in the heat of the summer, that thing's going to start to smell, and it's not going to really offer you the same experience. Technically, the porta potty is a requirement for a 3 birdie course, whereas you're supposed to have permanent facilities if you're going to make it to a 4 birdie course. This is where the fudge factor comes into play. And what it amounts to is things like the amateur shop, the mint condition of the course, the signage, all the other things about the 501 are so good they compensate for this one 3-star deficiency, if you will. Okay, so again, it's an example of the fudge factor. I'm not going to give these guys a 3.5. They're only missing one item realistically from the list. Now, like I said before, it's important when you're defining a thing to know what that thing isn't. So, what a BS number isn't. It isn't a measure of how much fun the course is to play, and it isn't a measure of how much the locals love their course. Okay? Fun is not a factor. First of all, it's far too subjective. Second, nobody agrees on what makes something fun. And third, it almost never matters. How can fun never matter, Kyle? That's a good question, but let me give you an example. Let's say that I go out and I play around with Ian Baker at a course that neither of us have played before. He shoots 3 under par, I shoot 5 over, I have a really bad day. Someone asks us, how'd you like this course? I'm thinking it's terrible, Ian loves it. We both played the same course, it's just that I had a bad day. If I had thrown 3 under on that course, my first time playing it, I'd probably be like, greatest course ever! Okay. So what goes into making a course fun? Highly unreliable. The birdie score does not try to accommodate that. Also, BS numbers are effortless, okay? I don't grade on effort, I grade on results, okay? I don't care how much your community loves their disc golf course, it's what it's like to play it that matters, okay? I like to say that great people can build a great course, but great people can't make a course great. You might have Harry, who shows up at 4 a.m. before a tournament and sets up a smoker and makes brisket for everybody, and it's delicious. You might have Sally, who shows up for every tournament and gives hugs to all the players before they go out for their rounds, even the ones who are showing up for the very first time. And she hands out plastic to people to loan for the course, and she's always giving advice about how to play certain holes. You may have wonderful people like this at your course. Okay? They may be having a ton of fun as a result of these individuals who are doing wonderful work. But let's say Harry meets Sally in a non-disc golf way, and birds sing and brisket is eaten, and the two of them end up married, they have kids, they move off to suburbia, and they're never at your course again. Does the loss of a few good people suddenly drop your course's score? It should play exactly the same. If I show up on a random Tuesday morning and Harry and Sally are not there, am I going to get the same experience that you got Sunday when there was a tournament? So, what you have in that situation is a 5-star party and a 3-birdie course. All right, the birdie score is all about the features. I've said features a number of times. I want to explain what I mean here. The more a course offers in terms of features, the more likely it is to attract players. Not just good players, but a large number of players, okay? It's also going to increase the odds that players will find it fun, okay? The more options you give them, the more likely it's going to meet their particular, requirements. Think of it as casting a bigger net, all right? The bigger the net you cast, the more fish you're going to catch. I know that nothing is perfect, and the birdie score is certainly one of those things, okay? But if you've got better ideas, go ahead, feel free to post them in the comments, let me know what you think. Okay. As I mentioned before, it's too wet outside to be playing, so what I like to do is I'm going to give you a quick, and I do mean quick, 20-second video so we get some disc golf in here. I played yesterday, and I played our regular Sunday morning doubles thing. And my buddy Kevin and I, a good friend of mine, we managed to get teamed up, and we played our butts off. We played well above our usual AM1 levels. He's kind of the top of the B pool, and I'm the bottom of the A pool in our course. And we went up against guys who are definitely in the top of the A division, if you will. We played against Mark de Blasio, aka MPO Cookie Puss, aka Trash, aka Tag Whore, and his partner, who was new to the course, turned out to be a very capable player. I also played against a former bomber, Dave Mahoney, who's now playing for the B division team, Team Borderland. His partner was a former captain of the Team Borderland, Matt DeAngelis. And we managed to tie these guys. We had a 3-way tie at the end of the round at -11, okay, for our card. This was a format that allowed you to count birdies as an ace if both players were able to putt out for it. So maybe you went for it if it was a 10-foot putt. You should go for it. But you might not if it's a 30 or 40-foot putt. And so we finished up and tied these guys. Rather than doing the usual thing at our course, which is to play like a 60-foot or 70-foot CTP throw-off, we decided to go to extra holes and settle this in overtime. The footage you're about to see is me putting from Kevin's drive and the very first hole of that throw-off.
Hey! Man.